Namaste, my friend. Since I gave you that book to read and contemplate, I'm going to summarize in a very simple way. Normally, what is simple always appears very difficult and complex. Why? Because of our own mind. And I told you that one verse is written by a master. It is a compressed folder, like a zip file. So think of it, if a zip file contains 100 pages, and those 100 pages I discuss and talk to you to make it simple, to make it easy. I oversimplify. Let's have a simple question. Do we have the right to die before we discover peace and happiness? This is a crazy question. Do we have a right to die before we discover our real nature, that we are of the nature of peace, happiness, love, and wisdom, and we think, speak, and act in our daily life? Another question that seems to be relevant: do I live like an animal or a human being? Animals live, they grow up, they have they reach to a sense of physical maturity. As such, there is no mental maturity, because the mind of the animals will continue to behave like this. Because I possess the mind, I can take over the mind. The entire journey begins with that. I have to work on the mind, and the mind works on me. So, why it does not happen so easily, and why, how to understand this? There was a music maestro approached by two young men. The first young man, who had already learned lot of music instruments, and he went to the master and he said, "Would you teach me?" "Yes, I will teach you." "How much you will charge?" "I will charge you $100 per hour per session." Second guy was also sitting. He was little bit uh, upset, but okay. So he asked the second guy, "Did you learn any music from anyone?" "No, I did not learn, master." "Will you teach me?" "Yes, I will teach you." "What will be the charge?" "I will charge you $100 for 25 sessions in a month." The first guy, who has already learnt it, and he said, what do you mean? For every hour you are charging me $100 when I already know about the music instruments. And you are charging this guy who doesn't know anything, you are charging $100 for 25 lessons. One lesson for me is $100, and 25 lessons, who doesn't know anything, you are charging. Master smiled and said to the first guy, "I need to work hard on you to unlearn what you have already learned. And then I will start the very first lesson. And I don't know in how many lessons you will totally unlearn the stuff that is causing you the problem in becoming an expert in the music." Oh, he has no word to say. That is what the mind does to us. After 10 years, this woman returned to me. She is a psychotherapist. So while treating others, she went into a lot of stress. She says, I'm very sensitive, like a young guy who has learned the music. And then she returned, and now she is having a couple of sessions with me. Do you understand? She has been trading, she has been charging from the insurance. So silently she is learning from me. She told me that don't do. No, I'm not revealing the name. This is what happens. Then other people, the second category of the people, they have tried the journey of the Eastern wisdom. They have tried. My master used to say, what do you mean by trying? The mind always wants to keep all kinds of pleasures in the world while seeking peace and happiness in me. So, one part of the mind is always looking for peace and happiness outside in the form of a pleasure, and the other part of the mind is looking for peace and happiness in the world deep inside me. How it is possible? So, those people have a big ego. They leave everything. They say, oh, there is nothing in mindfulness meditation. There is nothing what you are talking of awakening. It has nothing to do with it. Why they say that? Because their mind is already obsessed with seeking their pleasure and return into the pain. They got frustrated. They marry to be unhappy and then they divorce to be unhappy. And then they say, there is nothing in the world, I have become a monk. No, this is not working. They are living in utter frustration. How to know that? Find out. Is their life is organized? When they wake up in the morning, their mind never thinks about falling into unconsciousness by drink, by other means, by drug. Their life is totally unorganized and they claim that they are living so wisely. Not possible. Coming back to the same question, $100 per hour per session and $100 per month. So that unlearning process is important because of wrong notions, because of falling into anxiety where it is not required. And that is what we covered in the previous sessions until now, before I take up the next lesson from the book. So never forget to study that book, and then after reading and studying, listening, then you have to contemplate and reflect. What is the message given there? Now see that. Do we believe in Buddha? Yes. Do we believe in Jesus? Yes. Buddha says world is suffering, but the world outside is suffering, is not suffering for me, is a means for pleasure. So my mind will constantly run around in the world, remain fully busy, not fully organized, blaming others, living by the means that makes my mind unconscious, habitual and addictive. How can you believe those people? So remember. So where is the problem? I have been attending so many lessons. Yes, there are many reasons. One of the major reasons, it depends on how much ignorance in the mind, how many wrong notions that we have in our mind to live a life, to discover peace and happiness. That is a general statement, but but again, we have to go a little deeper. Second problem, second challenge that our master says, are you a qualified seeker? Who is a qualified seeker? Who has realized, who has understood that nothing in the world outside, whether it is an object or a person or an event or a situation, has the property of peace and happiness in the world. I love this mouse, so then I'm happy with the mouse. But the happiness is not there in the mouse. Happiness is not there in the monitor. Happiness is not in the clothes. It's okay to say that I like wearing this clothes, I like eating this food, but liking should not leads to an obsession where I start searching peace and happiness outside. What people do, they attend couple of the sessions and ultimately they fall back. Why they fall back? Now they consider the object outside contain the peace and happiness, so they get into the peace, they get frustrated, and they continue the journey. No, no, tell me something which makes me understand easily. Even though I have told you three reasons, one by a story and two by these statements, let us have a third understanding. There were two diamond merchants. They were very close friends and they were helping each other's family, the wives, and also the kids because they were extremely wise. So one of the diamond merchant died and his son opened a safe box. He opened the safe, he found a box. In that box, there was a letter and a sparkling object, a glowing object, a glittering object with a letter addressed to his son. The son was reading, so, my son, you have to go to my friend. You already know who is close friend, who is also a diamond merchant, to find out if this glittering object is what is the worth of that glittering object. Simultaneously, you should maintain your awareness also here and now. That when I say that you are real self, so it looks as a glittering object, one aspect. Or I can say, oh, come on, do this practice once and you will be in peace. You do it, you find the peace, and the next time you are again stressed. So I'm giving the two objects. One object, find the real self. Second object, oh, just do this practice and there is nothing in. That's all. So anyhow, this son went to his father's friend with a letter and with that piece of glittering object. Or you can say that two glittering objects. One object that was glittering like as if it is worth millions of dollars, and the other was not as glittering. So the diamond merchant said that I will not tell you. If I tell you, it may be right or wrong. What should I do? Son asked. I will train you to find out which object is the real, how to find the worth and the value. Son asked, then what should I do? Come and sit and get trained. He spent 1 year in the training. He became an expert. Now he knows. He is not swayed away by an object that is glittering. He is not rejecting the object that is very easy to recognize by the wrong notion that it has nothing in it. I will be attracted to the glittering. We all are attracted by glitters. All that glitters is not gold in the world. It is because of the mind. It is because of our habit. It is because of our wrong notions, my friend. So after 1 year, diamond merchant said that now go there. Your safe box is there. Bring it out. Go to the checking room. Find out of these two objects what is the worth of each one. He went there. He examined the object that was glittering was just a piece of glass. It was just a waste. It was not even worth a penny. Well, normally we find some glittering objects when we are doing a morning walk and evening walk. That is the message every master gives. What glitters outside in our relationship, in a situation, with an object, with a thing, creating a situation or event, you have already experienced our Christmas celebration, another celebration, birthday celebration. It's few hours of celebration. People come, eat their food, and appreciate or don't appreciate, and it is finished. We pay too much attention there. And so his son examined the second object, which was worth $10 million. A rare diamond that needs to be polished only so that it starts glittering like a diamond. We have to train ourselves. We have to educate ourselves, my friend. We have to educate ourselves. We have to become a qualified seeker, to examine, to understand with clarity where located permanent peace and happiness. Even when I said that, and why I said, all the masters are saying the peace, happiness, love, truth, and wisdom are your essential nature. You have no right to die before you discover that. On the other hand, we are 100% clear that the pleasure in the world is like worth nothing, like the same piece of a glass, which was glittering like anything. So, what happens when I recognize the world outside? The world outside is not a source of permanent peace and happiness, but they glitter. And when they glitter, I have to examine and recognize and realize and continue the journey. Keep on doing the last practice that I gave to you. Don't forget that. I told you that there are two parts of the practice. Either you do one part, second part. One time you do both. Why? Your mind reaches to that state of the wisdom by which you recognize this is the journey, the way the young son of a diamond merchant recognized. Whatever master says now, you remember the story of this son of a diamond merchant. So if I say that glass piece is a diamond in ignorance and worth not even a penny in knowledge, did you understand that? Did you understand that? That will make the things very clear. I'm repeating again. That glass piece is diamond in ignorance by just appearance, by looking. The world outside of objects, of people, of relationship appears as a glittering diamond in ignorance, but it is false in knowledge. Now I know that peace and happiness does not lie outside in the world. What is going to happen when I wake up in the morning? For example, your son returns, knocks the door. How are you, mom? You appreciate you have come to ask my well being. You appreciate, but you are not attached. Why you are not attached? Happiness is within you. But if you are attached, then your mind claims that glittering is outside. That much is required to get rid of the anxiety, duality, conflict, confusion, insecurity, dissatisfaction, frustration, and failure. They are the siblings of ignorance. Did you understand? Take the same example of the diamond. He glittering, and the son said, "This is worth millions," and the other object is useless, worthless. Because without examination, without entering into the right knowledge, entering into the wrong notion causes this problem. Science, every science works only with the two factors: what is real, what is unreal. Unreal means it does not exist. Real means it exists. That is the simple definition. It may exist today, it may not exist tomorrow. But Eastern wisdom works on the three factors. What is real? So we redefine the real. How we redefine the real? That exists all the time. That is in all the space, anywhere, everywhere. That is independent of cause and effect. And that is consciousness. That consciousness is the real self. That is our essential nature. We have to reach there. And what is false? What appears true is not true. Glass piece appears as a diamond, but it is not even worth a penny. The happiness is the property of my honey, your honey, my son, your son, this car, this cloth, that cloth. No, that is false. It appears. You buy something new, it gives you a sense of happiness in your mind, but when I am aware, then I know that this shirt does not contain the property of happiness. It happens in my mind because of I like it, I am attached to it. I have a preference for it. So only I have to remember this. How do you remember? If you are not aware, you don't remember. I'm summarizing all the previous almost, all these lessons since the start of this book. I have yet to start the 40 steps, but I'm laying down the foundation. Are you clear? My friends, say yes, even if you're not, so that you can repeat this, you can listen to it again. Do you still understand that I told you that we have to be a qualified seeker? So when I fall into unconsciousness with a wrong notion, getting attracted to a thing, an object, as a situation and a condition that will give me happiness, I fall into unconsciousness. So falling into unconsciousness, returning again to a state of being a non-seeker. It's a matter of a fraction of a second. I become aware, I am a qualified seeker, I get rid of the wrong notion. This is what is happening. But why it is happening? Because of the past impressions are there, and because we find that everything, peace and happiness lies in the world. Are we clear? We are clear. So we get obsessed with what is false and we stop examining, analyzing in my head. The false does not exist. When we are clear in our mind, then as a seeker, I do not fall back into the same unconsciousness, ignorance, and try to fight with my anxiety, duality, conflict, insecurity, etc., etc. It is a matter of just in a flash, it happens. So we are trapped in another layer of the ignorance, and that causes a lot of challenges in my life. One disciple of my master invited him to for a lunch. Master agreed. So then the same seeker, same disciple told the master, please don't invite the guy X. I don't want to name that. My master said, it's okay, it's part of your, I have no problem. Master went to his home for a lunch. At the lunch table, the guy who started talking about the other guy who was not invited. When that guy finished talking, he said that my master said that you have destroyed my lunch. I was eating. You cooked that lunch with lot of love and care. I appreciate that. The guy you did not invite, he might be enjoying his life because he doesn't know anything about your reaction, your anxiety, your blaming and complaining. And you are keeping him in your mind even at the time of the lunch. You're a non seeker. What did you get inviting me? I should have spoken something good. And you wasted your time. I'm happy with the both. So I lost my awareness. I become a non seeker. When I'm a non seeker, then only I get into anxiety, duality, conflict. We have no right to die. Come back. We have no right to die before we realize we are the real self, we are the peace and happiness. So that we do not carry these impressions forward in the next birth. We don't want to be happy being unhappy. How that happens? Being happy, I pose to invite people for a good lunch or a dinner, but I am unhappy because someone insulted and did not appreciate me. So why I should seek appreciation from others? Let me do my best. Let me do my best and offer to you. At the same time, I'm not expecting that you are going to appreciate me. I did my best. I check it, I re examine it, I did the best. So, what happens to that mind? That mind is not worried and concerned. That mind never goes into anxiety. Never duality, no conflict, no dissatisfaction, no insecurity, no unhappiness. I'm happy because of happiness within me. I'm not happy because you appreciate it. If you appreciate, I will share that appreciation. I will thank you. But I also thank you because the God has given me an opportunity to cook the food to offer to you. Is this a greater appreciation coming from the existence or expecting from the other people to appreciate me? That is the difference between a seeker and the non seeker. So, the entire journey, Master says, is to know who am I. Once we understand clearly who am I, there is a sense of recognition. We instantly unlearn. What do we unlearn? We realize that peace and happiness is not outside. So my expectations, supported by a sense of insecurity, dissatisfaction, drops and dissolves. Mind is free. Mind is empty. So that empty mind is full of happiness. We are summarizing all the topics so that we can move ahead. For a non seeker who will speak his mind, will declare that there is nothing in this journey to find the real self. You can never get rid of the anxiety, duality, dissatisfaction. Why? Because they tell from the experiences they have accumulated and gathered from the world. So, when they say that with reference to the world outside, we know the world does not contain peace and happiness. So, whatever he or she is saying is narrating his personal experiences with the world outside. So, we both are right, but then they don't know. They don't know. These people do not know because they have never discovered peace and happiness within, and that is what the journey. So, that is how we have to analyze and understand. So the world, so what happens? Why they say this? The world created by them in their mind is different from the natural world. I told you the story of this young woman lives there, and uh, her house is bordering the school where she teaches. She is a wonderful teacher. She says everyone recognizes her teaching. But then there was a football stadium, and those kids continues to play football until sometime in the midnight. And the noise coming from them has disturbed her. She went into deep depression. It took her almost 9 months to get out of the depression. So I only asked a simple question. Here is a mouse. Does this mouse can cause any stress and suffering for me willfully? So, for the mouse to cause any stress and suffering, the mouse has to be conscious. Mouse has to be a living being. Then it knows, here I am. And then this mouse approaches me and causes distress and suffering. So I asked her a simple question: is the noise willfully, intentionally, consciously disturbing you? She is a teacher. She said, how can any noise can disturb anyone? I said, that's what I've been saying you. So for the 9 months you were a non-seeker. Your mind was totally obsessed with the noise. So when you are obsessed with the noise, that mind cannot receive the knowledge that is right. Now she has joined the group session and she laughs every time. And she told me, you told me that you are a non-seeker. You should have blasted on me. I said, no. We are forbidden. The role of a teacher in the Eastern wisdom to keep on teaching, keep on educating through different expressions, through different examples in the stories, to help remove the ignorance. Why we have no right to blast? Because we both are of the nature of the real self, you and me, and everyone. How can I blast? So we come down to the simple thing: mind is the cause of the suffering, and mind is the cause of the solution. So if the same mind becomes a seeker and it follows the simple principles, you can realize your real self. But if the mind keeps its ego and I thought, the moment I keep any I thought, moment I keep anything of the past, those past impressions lives on ego, I thought. Then the mind will never become pure. It will not become a qualified seeker. Then that mind keeps on haunting the world outside for peace and happiness. It will not look inside. Or even if it looks inside, whenever it looks inside, it finds the peace and happiness. And whenever their mind forgets and it starts looking outside, they will have their problems, suffering, anxiety. I'm summarizing, so I gave a lot of principles that we have covered. So the Eastern wisdom says there is a real, there is a false, there is an untruth or unreal. Unreal we need not to worry because it does not exist. The false that appears to exist but is not. So I wake up in the morning and I see my son, my daughter, my parents, my family, etc., my car, etc. They appear before the mind. And I'm aware when they appear before the mind. At the same time, I'm also aware peace and happiness does not lie, or peace and happiness are not located in what appears before my mind. What appears before my mind, David? For example, he's a human being, he's a person. No, but my mind says it appears before me as my son. That is the problem. Now, shouldn't I say that he is my son? No, say it. But still, I can say my son, but he still appears as a one human being. Why? I should live into that awareness. Because the moment you say, "Is my son," you are attached, me and mine is there, the mind is limited. That mind limitation blocks the progress. Why it blocks the progress? The moment I am related, then I have an emotional connect. Then I start living in emotional bondage. Emotional dependence is there. When the emotional dependence is there, then what happens? We know, we already know, I need not to repeat it. Same anxiety, duality. So the entire journey of the self discovery focuses on who am I? Am I a person who lives with emotional dependence? Am I a person who lives with utter dissatisfaction? Am I a person being happy by becoming unhappy? Is that the approach that I follow in my life? We need to think. The moment you stop thinking along the lines of these principles, non thinking means the mind keeps on thinking. How the mind keeps on thinking? By unwanted, unwelcome thoughts. So when you are not thinking consciously along these lines, the mind is still thinking, inviting unwanted, unwelcome thoughts, and those unwanted, unwelcome thoughts has a relationship with an attachment, emotional bondage, dissatisfaction, insecurity, and the mind triggers into anger, anxiety, duality, and conflict. Can you become anxiety now? I know you will laugh and smile. When I am conscious, when I am aware, I cannot be angry, I cannot be into anxiety. Why? Because then I can think rightly. Unwanted, unwelcome thoughts has no place. Who am I? So I was answering that question. So when when I asked a question, am I a person with an anxiety? Am I a person with a reaction? Am I a person? Yes, if I'm attached to something outside. No, I simply said no and I'm free. So our master makes these simple principles clear. Three questions. Who am I? What is the world outside? And what exactly is the existence? Is the existence really meant to cause suffering to me? Or I invite suffering to me because the mind lives in wrong notion and ignorance? Well, if the existence is meant to cause the suffering to the entire human race, then we will never even think of peace and happiness, love, truth, and wisdom. It is the other opposite is true because that existence triggers us. Look at the car you bought it gives you the pleasure, but pleasure is short lived. Where you experience the pleasure, you experience the pleasure in your mind. So it means there is something greater than the pleasure. What is that? That is permanent peace and happiness. And that is what the Eastern wisdom, and that is what we try to make people understand. You can give me any example, any event, any situation. So when I examine, analyze by thinking along the line of these principles, the mind removes all the doubt. We become a qualified seeker, then it takes hardly few sessions to reach to that state. I told you the story of the diamond merchant. The preparatory stage for the son, it took him 1 year to get fully trained and become an expert. Tell me how much time it took him to recognize which one is the real diamond and which one is a piece of glass. Not even a minute. He went to the lab, found out, and here, this is a wastage, this is not worth a penny, and this cost 10 million. So the preparatory stages takes a time because we have lot of garbage in the mind. Once they are removed, you recognize instantly. Still you say, my son, welcome. But your mind has totally emotional freedom. You think and you speak and act with an emotional freedom. You are free. Even if your son says something nasty, because you know nothing outside can cause you any stress and suffering. So if he said something nasty to you, you recognize because of his own temperament, because of his emotional dependence. He never meant to be nasty over me. Recognize. So you recognize in your mind, so you are free. You said, okay, son, no issue. I'll ask you to think it, come back again, I welcome you. Done. That is the journey of the Eastern West. We are the highest seeker. You listen, learn the principle, you have understood, you have started applying in your life, you are already there. Lower than that, we have to study, understand these principles. So there will be up and down, upside down. There will be a 180-degree turn, there will be 360-degree, because that is where we speak again and again. We customize, we personalize the program and the practices in order to make the mind highest level of a seeker. The highest level of a seeker is wise. Kabir was a great master. He was simply a weaver. He continued to weave even after enlightenment and awakening to the real self. Being wise is one thing, having a greater IQ is totally another thing. You have a very high IQ, you can get admission in Harvard School. But that having a greater IQ does not give you freedom from committing suicide. You know, many of the young students who went to the Harvard, they have the highest IQ. Having a greatest IQ to live in the world outside, the material world, constantly obsessed with the recognition, the prestige, while living in stress. Being wise, first, it means that I live in emotional freedom. I have a peace and happiness. I think, speak, and act in peace in every situation, in every relationship in the world. Even if I don't have a higher IQ, it doesn't matter. Kabir was totally illiterate. In fact, he was thrown into a basket into the river. by a couple. We all know in the past, US or in any country in those days, 100, years ago, illegitimate son and daughter, whatever you say. So that's why that couple put the baby into the basket, into a bamboo basket, and allowed it to float into the river. And the parents found him and they brought him up. These parents were the weavers. When I read this story, when I remember this story, when I recall the story, I realize that I have done nothing. I have not achieved anything. So these stories should inspire and motivate us. Rather, raise our level of awareness, intensity. First step, curiosity, interested, committed. Why I'm interested, curious, and committed? Because I recognize I'm doing the same thing in the world again and again and expecting a different result. There is always a pleasure in getting something from the world, and after the pleasure is lost because it is short lived. It it goes back to the pain and frustration. I want to get rid of that. That is a right curiosity. That means I'm 100% interested. Don't blame, complain anyone outside. Second step is auspiciousness. I have to create, I have to check that state of auspiciousness. Now we have already done, we have covered that topic. What is auspiciousness? That is what is right and good. What I have to do with the right and good. Let my mind follow what is right and good. Let my mind think of that what is right and good. Let my mind speak of what is right and good. And recognize what is not right and good. Is anxiety good, right and good? I will not I will not think about it. Is reaction is good? Oh no, I reacted it, but now I promise myself that I'm not going to react. What I'm doing, I'm creating an auspiciousness. Now you can write, we can write a very good book. How many times I reacted. I just made it an open session to make you very clear. So I need not to think about anxiety. When there is, I have to think about the peace. Let me see what happens. Let me examine how my mind is looking outside in relation to someone, and that raised my bar of expectation, which was not met, so I'm into anxiety. I recognize it is done, finished. But when I keep on thinking, I'm in anxiety, I have a lot of expectation, and I'm frustrated, and he's not listening, or she. The third step of these, that is what I'm summarizing. Is that we have clearly understood what is real, what is false, what is unreal. Unreal does not exist, so there is no issue. Real always exists. It is independent of everything. Peace is independent. Happiness is independent. Love is independent. So, whenever I experience, there is a sense of dependence, there is a sense of the bondage, there is dissatisfaction, there is insecurity. It is always in relationship to the world outside where the peace and happiness are not located. So, I have recognized what is false. I'm happy now. Why? The mind has dropped that expectation. So I will just divide that into a couple of sessions so that we can go deeper, so we can raise our level of awareness. And the fourth and next step is that we become a qualified seeker by understanding all these. So once we become a qualified seeker, who, what do you mean? Qualified seeker, does they change their color, face, etc.? No. Everything changes in their head. They are not only awake, but they are always aware. Aware and awake. Awake and then aware. How it comes? By the power of discernment, by the power of dispassion, by the six treasures that we have discussed a couple of times, but now we are going to talk about it in a totally different dimension, little deeper. Okay? And then the next step is that then we will learn how to live practically personal, professional, social, family life by applying these principles. And the simple, if I oversimplify, it is that if I know how to connect, contribute, and celebrate my personal, professional, social, and the family life, the life changes. We'll understand that we are not connecting, contributing, and celebrating out of the ego and the selfishness and over expectation or due to the emotional bondage. We are connecting, contributing, and celebrating, being grateful, not with an ego, but with a mind that is at peace, mind that is free from the emotional bondage. The entire life from moment to moment becomes a joy. And at the same time, we are purifying the mind. We are getting rid of the enemies of the mind. Then comes the real journey of the self inquiry. You know, when when a guy, say for example, he goes to the school, so we have a reorientation. In the reorientation, the people are introduced about the syllabus curriculum, and you say everything is easy, you just do it, is very simple. So I go home and I find everything is so simple, so I will continue the journey. But that is the first, we say this is so. Oh, this is just about the real journey. But then you attend the sessions, you find the challenges in the mind in the very first year of your first semester. So if you are not focused, you find a challenge. If you are focused, you find it's a joy. And the master still says, now the real journey has started. This is your first lesson in the first semester. In the second semester, he says the same thing. That is what I'm saying. Until we reach to the higher self. What happens with that higher self? What happens with the higher self? Nothing. Just an awakening. We recognize, we live into that state of the peace and calmness. Am I teaching? No. I'm teaching from the knowledge that is already found in the text. Who has written those texts? Who are enlightened teachers? How many of them? More than 3,000. How long the tradition? 10,000 years old tradition. Not one, two, 10, 100, but 3,000 masters have validated the principles again and again and again. We have hundreds of teachers, masters in India. You have already a very strong foundation over these weeks, months, and years. You can recognize them. Asatu ma satgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityurma mritangamaya. Lead us from the false to the real. Lead us from the ignorance to wisdom. Not to the hierarchy. Lead us from the bondage of the mind to the freedom of the mind. Why in that freedom of the mind I awaken to myself. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.